Thursday from 2 to 3 p.m. It's Cordial Conversations with Todd Rollins. And you can stream it on praise1049.com. You don't want to miss this. This Cordial Conversation is good because he's written a new book called Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community. And he wants to hear from you. He wants you to sound off as well, as long as it's cordial and respectful. But he has his reasons for writing this type of book, and I am going to let him tell you what they are. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Okay, it's great to be here. Great to see you again.
Great to see you again, too. And we missed you last week, but we're so happy to have you back.
It's nice to be back.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who you are, your husband, your father, your former professor at Regent University, and a published author. But this isn't the only book you've written. Tell us about your other books.
Yeah, I have written 3 books, and one of them is just dealing with the pain in our lives, specifically for Christians, because it's difficult sometimes to understand why am I a Christian going through so many challenges, and how do I handle that? And you can get that on Kindle. The next one is 10 Minutes More, and it's just a small book and designed to allow people to carry it with them. It's designed for a 7th grader to be able to read, and it just teaches about prayer throughout the Bible. And you know, I've always said that that's the second greatest gift that you can give anyone is the gift of prayer. Salvation will be the first, and then, you know, we think of our children, our grandchildren, and the things we do for them, and we help them and counsel them, but we're not always going to be there. But as long as we teach them to pray, and I think one of the things that's lacking in churches, to be quite honest, is discipleship. And one of those things in discipleship is knowing how to pray. We just assume people are going to know how to pray. And even the disciples looked at Jesus and said, "Teach us to pray." And it's something we need to learn. We need to figure out how to do that. So 10 Minutes More, and then finally Killing Me Softly, and it is about the different decisions that have been made by our government that have affected the Black community, and it's decisions that are swept under the rug. And we have others that are brought to light on a regular basis and hammered into our heads, but they don't like to hear these. And there are people that would become defensive because of the people that have done these things. You know, we've talked before that we had a presidential candidate who said concerning the Black community, we need to bring them to heel. And heel being, when we say sit up, you sit up. When we say lay down, you lay down.
Like a dog.
Like a dog. And so there's that thing that, you know, when it's time for an election, you know, politicians just love the Black community. And then
Why is that?
Then the election, because they need to vote. And without that vote, I mean, recently that has started to shift. I believe that President Trump in this last election got more of the Black vote than ever before. And so what happens is, you know, the people court the Black community. And then when it's all said and done, then you see all these policies and things that took place in the meantime that is seriously detrimental to the Black community, but that's never brought up. And some people don't even know about it. So I wrote the book because I wanted to bring it up. And I wanted to say, hey, a lot of the things you're promoting on the news, on TV, whatever, is not the big thing. It's not the thing that's really affecting the Black community. So I just wanted to bring that up. And you can find the books on Amazon.com. And if you would like to contribute to this show, I'm in cordialconversations.com, and you can go there and you can help to support the show. And if you're out there in a business and would like to sponsor this show, it would really be helpful so that we can continue.
So once again, this is Cordial Conversations with Todd Rollins, and we're going to dive into his book, Killing Me Softly, which I want to give another quick overview. Pastor Todd Rollins birthed this book from a deep passion for the Black community. It exposes the U.S. government's many decisions over the years that have negatively affected the Black community. And one of the deep challenges that we face with those who seek to do damage to us is a lack of knowledge. Agendas are hidden, we are told, what others want us to know. This book, Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community, is available on Amazon.com. It brings the truth to light. It is simply a book that every person needs to read, and I promise you, you will learn something from it, and I've learned a lot. So let's get into it. What chapter did you want to, or how did you want to?
Well, I thought, obviously I missed last week, and it went very well dealing with some of the questions that people had sent me. And I appreciate it because the show is called Cordial Conversations, and I really appreciate it. Everyone has been cordial. I've had one person to be nasty in any way. Mm-hmm. So I thought that we would look at a couple of those questions right now, and then if you have any questions from the book, we can do that. And if we have callers that would like to ask questions, that's fine. One of the things that I've been asked is, what do I tell my children who say they are afraid to be a black person? And I think that is, and first of all, let me do this. If you would like to call in, I would like to know from anyone here today, tell me who you know, what black person do you know in the last 5 years that has been shot being unarmed, not breaking the law, by the police? I'd just like to throw it out the Hampton Roads and see how many people have we had that, because
454-1650, 454-1650.
Yeah, because that whole idea, stems from, we see the news, mm-hmm. and then it makes us be afraid to walk outside. There was a very famous basketball player. I don't like to always mention names, but very, very famous basketball player. And during a press interview, he said, I am afraid right now to be a black man in this country. Now, that's an interesting thing, because there's probably a lot of people, young people, watching basketball, and they see that. And here's this person telling everyone it's dangerous. I've heard people say, I had another person come into my office one day, a black man, and he said, they're killing us in the streets. They're just slaughtering us. And I said, what? What are you talking about? And they said, we as black people, the police are just slaughtering us. And I think it's important to take a step back. And the Bible says that you'll know the truth and the truth will set you free. We cannot get our education from talking heads on television. We cannot get our education from politicians. We can't go to our favorite evening TV show and expect them to tell us the truth.
That's right. That's true.
They all have an agenda, and mostly we are educated by those groups of people. They tell us what to believe. It'll be similar to this. If I were to rob a convenience store, and that was caught on tape, and I live in Chesapeake, I did in Chesapeake. In Virginia Beach, there were 15 other people there that robbed a convenience store. Mm-hmm. Now, if the news wanted to run me 10 times a day, 7 days a week, over and over, and say the crime in Chesapeake is just so horrible, and do that over and over, and then we look at that and go, wow, look what is happening in Chesapeake. The city's falling apart, with no mention of Virginia Beach. And that's just an example. But then in that way, we are educated as to what to believe and where to believe and how to believe it. So I think it's important to step back and listen to the people that are telling us what they're telling us, and to see just what is their agenda. Here's one of the things that happens in the black community. I mentioned earlier, maybe our first show, I mentioned that I think dividing us by race or by the color of our skin, even in an attempt to help certain sectors of the community, is wrong to do that by race. Now, why that is wrong is, with the black community, there are those that would live in the inner city, which is very, very violent. I mean, I think everyone would agree that that's violent.
You said Elizabeth City?
No, in the city.
Oh,
In the inner city, yeah. So as a matter of fact, if you look at the cities, I think Chicago has over, 3,000 people shot a year. Their highest weekend for murders is 38. Well, when they portray black people and they show that over and over, but good people don't get on TV. Good people don't get in the newspaper. And we don't see all the really, really great black people in our community. And then it causes racism and it causes prejudice because our point of reference is these people showing this on the news, and we don't get to see the young man that comes home from work dead tired and throws the ball with his son. We don't see that in the black community. We don't see the ones volunteering. We don't see that. We just see the ones that are corrupt. And then what it does is it puts in people's mind, we're all racist, but those people, if they would just act right, if they would just do right. And I had a conversation with a man one time that was a professor where I was, and he was very concerned about racism. And I said, here's the challenge. I said, I don't think you know what you're talking about. He said, he's a friend of mine. He laughed. I said, with people in our church even, that we minister to the inner city, said if we brought a young man who grew up in the inner city and sat here, I said to you, have a conversation with him. I said, you couldn't. I said, you and I could talk for the next several hours because we live in the same neighborhood. We have the same doctor. We go to the same churches. We shop at the same grocery store. But then we have other people that grew up in a different way, where it is, if you're growing up in certain areas, yeah, it's scary to be a black person. I mean, half of all murders take place within the black community in the country. So with 13% of the population, we have half of all the murders take place. And so it's just important to know the truth, and don't listen to someone on television until you yourself has checked it out. Now, back to and then I'll quit rambling. Back to our professional basketball player. Now, here's an example of someone, as he said that, I looked at him, and he said, I'm afraid to be a black man in this country. This particular basketball player, this was a post-game interview. After his interview, he will probably go to a luxury locker room. He will be iced down first or hot tub first, but we'll spend an hour in a hot tub. He will more than likely get an hour massage and to loosen up his muscles because he just played hard. He will then go out with bodyguards around him. He will get in a car and probably someone will drive him. He will go to a restaurant that the meal is $300 a plate. He will eat it. Then he will go home. And when he gets home, he has to press a button to have the gate in his house open. There's a gated community and cameras everywhere for anyone who will step out. And then he will walk in and he will go to bed. And that man is telling you all, I am afraid to be a black person in this country. Man, what are you afraid of? I mean, that's a pretty good life. And he makes about $40 million a year.
Well, may I interject?
Sure.
I believe that what you just described is him being safe with all of that pomp and circumstance, but if he was to go out driving by himself, police officers or regular citizens might not recognize his status.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's talking about beyond his status.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then let's take it to everyone that doesn't have that status.
Exactly.
What are the numbers? Not just what you've seen in TV over and over, not what someone has told you. How many unarmed black people are shot each year in this country? And it varies from year to year. The number is probably, depending on the year, so I'm not going to tag one year, but it's probably around 20 unarmed black people a year are shot. There are around 40 unarmed white people shot each year. Now, they define unarmed by not having a gun.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, within that 20, you can have someone with a knife, you can have someone with a baseball bat. One person was shot because he was in his car trying to ride over a police officer. So if you say no weapons at all, you're down to 9 to 13 people in the entire country that has black people that have been shot. So now if you look at the percentage in this country of the millions and millions of black people, and you're going to say there's going to be 13 this year, you're pretty safe. I mean, the chances of police officers shooting you, and if you take that number once again and say, okay, how many of these people are law-abiding citizens who did not have a rap sheet, who did not have a weapon, who did not resist arrest? How many of those have been shot by the police? And the answer is 0. Year after year after year. And that number has gone down, and well, 0 can't get down, but the other numbers have gone down considerably, like 65% in the last 8 years.
Now, I do agree with you as far as the media, pumping up the statistics and the media. And I wanted to ask you, why? Why do you think the media would just promote racism the way they do if it isn't true? I'm saying, and I'm asking you, I'm not saying it is true or it's not true, but let's just play devil's advocate and say it's not true. Why would they promote such a lie?
Well, first of all, let me make it clear. I do believe there's racism in this country, and there's prejudice, whatever. I just don't think it's as widespread in the ways. I mean, the whole notion of the book is the horrible things.
And I agree with you, but why would they perpetuate it like that?
Well, they perpetuate it for a couple of different reasons. One is they want your vote. And they need to get to the point. What they mostly do is
I'm sorry, slow down. So I asked about the media, but you said they want your vote. So are you saying the politicians or the government's controlling the media for their votes, maybe?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, and with the idea that they are the same mind on most issues, with the media. And so what happens, and it stirs up viewership as well, because people, so now you get people like this young lady whose son is afraid every day of his life. And where he lives and where he goes to school, there is no reason to be afraid.
Well, the media made him afraid.
The media made him afraid.
Exactly.
And so then you do that and you get a vote by fear. And that's how we run our political contests now. I get so frustrated. I'll tell my children as they're watching TV, I said, please, if you ever see an ad of someone running for office that all they do is get up and tell you what they've done, how good they are, their track record, let me know. Never that. They immediately start tearing the other person apart and tearing their character and taking statements out of context. Now, I don't want to get too political here, whatever, because I have my likes and my challenges with every president. So when I mention one, I'm not necessarily uplifting one. But case in point, here's what happens in an election. Donald Trump decided to run against Hillary Clinton. Now they have a team to get together on each side, and they want to decide what are we going to promote our candidate for. But the next step is, what are we going to hang on that person so that people won't vote for him? And then you get statements taken out of context, you get whatever, and what the Clinton team decided is we're going to hang racism on Donald Trump. And day and night and day, and we're going to take words out of context, we're going to take things that he's done, blah, 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 and then we are going to make everyone know this man is a white supremacist, this man is a racist, this man will what. On the other hand, we have President Biden, and President Biden has been a senator for a long, long time, and he's done good things, but I will submit to you that he is probably one of the top 3 people in this country that has done more to damage the black communities in history. and you can see some of it within the book. I didn't want to go on with things, but it is, just with the crime bill that he did, he added 60 different laws that now you can get the death sentence for.
Biden did.
He did that in 1990.
Okay.
And on death row, guess who's on death row? 75% black males. So now it's not that you can get the death penalty for this. There's 60 other things that you can get the death penalty of. And then there were people that with 3 strikes, they're in prison for life. And that can be a 20-year-old, and they may have a couple of kids, and the only time their kids will ever see them is during the visitation. No birthdays, no Christmas, no anything. And that person may have not committed a violent crime, and he is there now for life. So those are the things you have to look and say, what? I want to read about this person. I want to see what they promoted. I want to see what they've done. I don't want this person on television or this politician to tell me what to believe.
Well, we do have to take a quick break, but the phone lines are open. If you would like to speak with Pastor Todd Rollins, we're delving into his book, Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community. It is Cordial Conversations with Todd Rollins. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Praise.
Chris House, and you're plugged into Praise 757. I'm telling you, there's no place like Praise.
WTJZ Praise is celebrating and saluting dads all week long.
How you feeling? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm feeling all right. Yeah. And again, if there's something within the book, if you want to ask a question, let me know. I really appreciate the back and forth. It helps me to move along at times.
Man, we need more than an hour.
Yeah, if I could just continue that line of thought for 1 second, there's a couple more points I wanted to make.
Yeah, the media really has people's brains washed, and you know who invented the television, right? The Germans.
Ah, okay.
The Germans, I can't think of his name, but he was German, and they invented the television in order to do exactly what it does, and that is to program. That's why it's called programs and programming our minds. And like you said, the media will put a fuel under the fire of racism, and it's like programming everybody's mind. Now I have to look at someone who doesn't look at me, when in actuality, you really have to look at someone who looks like you, because that's what I wanted to say too about the basketball player when I said not just police officers, but citizens who don't know who he is just because he's a black man riding around in a Jaguar or whatever the car, Tesla, whatever. A black man could surely try to rob him just as well as a police officer try to shoot him. So it's both ways, and the media tries to play it, like I said, like you said, the two sides against each other. When COVID was not racist, COVID attacked everybody. Okay, so what is the real game here? And what is the real gain here as far as someone playing this game with people's heads?
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And that is what happens. Even when something does take place, they will immediately, before they know the facts, they're supposed to be the news, but before they know the facts, they will run that story. And then it'll be on a talk show. And that thing will be broadcasted 50 times before we ever hear the facts. And it's already in everyone's mind as to what happened. And then, it's hard to take that back because the people that said aren't going to take it back. They're just going to change the subject. And so then those things take place and you talk to someone and say, yeah, but did you know the details of that? No, all I know is blah, blah, blah. And okay, they just brainwash you.
Yeah, that's just like a judge telling the clerk to strike that from the jury's already heard it. You can strike it all you want. It's already been said. They're going to remember it whether they strike it or not. So that's what's funny to me when the judge says, don't remember what he just said. Strike that. No, it's been said. It's been heard. So yeah. So we have about 30 seconds.
Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more.
No one's calling right now. They'll probably call right at the end of the show.
No, okay.
Go off.
Okay.
Join Billy Moore Jr. weekday afternoons from 3 to 7 p.m. here on Praise. And on Saturdays at 5 p.m. The Praise Mix.
Hey, family, it's your nephew, Willie Moore Jr. Thanks, Hampton Roads. It's an honor to serve you every single day.
And you might hear people say,
We're just keeping it 100.
It's Cordial Conversations with Todd Rollins, and before we go any further, I just want to say Happy Father's Day, Pastor Todd
Well,
Rollins.
thank you very much.
And I will remember to say it at the end of the show, but just in case I forget, I wanted to get it out there.
Well, thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome, and thank you for being here. And so you wanted to continue your train of thought.
I did, and before I jump to that, because I always forget, I also just want to invite anyone to New Life Community Church on Witchduck Road in Virginia Beach. And we are in need of workers, of people for the worship team, of ushers, of teachers, of whatever it may be. So if you're looking for a church, please come around and see us at 10:30 on Sunday mornings.
And that's New Life, L-I-F-E,
Yes,
and as opposed to New Light, but
Yep.
New Life off Witchduck Road.
yes.
Yes.
Well, so on the other topic, we also need to look, and I've said before, instead of dividing ourselves by our race or the color of our skin, the biggest division is between a Christian and a non-Christian. When the Lord looks down upon the earth, he sees two sets of people, a Christian and a non-Christian. He doesn't see black and white or whatever, and he said very specifically, there is no Jew or Greek, there is no male or female. All there is Christian and non-Christian. So anything like this, whether you're black or white or whatever, you also need to step back and realize that we're in a battle. And what is happening in this thing that is part of that battle? Well, the Bible says that Satan is the God, little g, the God of this world. It also says things that he has blinded the minds of men. It also, Jesus said of him, he only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He also said there is no truth. He was a murderer from the beginning, and there is no truth in him. So now let's take this from a Christian perspective, whether it's this topic or another topic, for black and white. One other verse that says that he will use his minions as angels of light. Mm-hmm. So he will send people out there that are really nice, and you really like them. And they're making you all kinds of promises and just loving on you, and yet it could be the enemy, because he needs to lie in some way. So for our country, you need to stop and think, how am I being lied to? And especially when you get news people or politicians or whatever it is, sometimes when you said how or why do they do it, sometimes the answer is because their father is telling them to. The devil. It's not Satan. And it's not just that he sits down and has a talk with them. It's that he uses fear. He uses doubt. He uses worry. He thrives on us all being afraid in every way. So whatever he can do, it says in 1 Corinthians, take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. And what that means is this, for all the military people out there. He says to take every thought captive. When you have a thought, and especially if it makes you angry or makes you dislike someone or makes you afraid of someone, go back to that thought. Take them captive. What do you do in the military if you have a prisoner? You're going to interrogate him. Set that thought down. Where did you come from? Thought, where did you come from? Thought, what is your intentions?
That's good.
Thought, what are you trying to do? Why would you tell me that? And then, is that thought even true? And especially when the thoughts take us to a place where we are being disobedient to the word. And so we become scared, we become afraid, we whatever. And so we cannot set aside the fact, and I'm not saying everyone, but the people that are not Christians, they're being led by the God of this world. He has an agenda. He has a theology. And if he can divide us in any way, he will do it. And so we need to sit down with our brothers and sisters, and we need to have cordial conversations. And you need to teach me, and I need to teach you, and we need to not be offended easily. And just, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And have those conversations the way that Christ would have us have those conversations.
Yes, cordial conversations with Todd Rollins. He wants to hear from you. 454-1650, 454-1650. We are talking about his book, Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community. And you know, I think whatever the agenda is, it's poured over into every community. You know, it could have been for the black community, but this COVID thing, I think it hit every community.
Right.
All over the world, not even just in this country, but on the planet.
Well, yeah, it does. And the other thing the enemy would do, or someone trying to get elected or to keep their job, he would focus on one issue, and it may be bad. I'm saying it's not true. It may be bad. And focus on it over and over and over, so we never hear what's going on over here on this side. And that was one of the reasons I wrote the book, because I believe that the black community in this country has just been beaten into the ground. But you'll never hear the true reasons on the news. You'll hear these things and be mad at each other, hate each other. This person's a racist. This person's a white supremacist. This person's a murderer. This whatever. We have to be careful, because we hear those things over and over, but then we don't understand the real things taking place. And I'm not going to drift into this, but I'll just briefly say, for instance, abortion. Now, I'm going to maybe called a heretic after this. I firmly believe the push for abortion in this country has very little to do with a woman's right to do with her body. I believe that abortion from the beginning was put in place to keep the numbers of the black community under wrap.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. I'm glad you thought, because I was afraid everyone was going to jump on me for that one.
No.
And so all of the literature, all of the advertising, all of the everything is around black communities. All of the places that you go to get an abortion is with walking distance of black communities. And it's a way of keeping the population down.
Population control.
Yeah, so if they can't, but if no one talks about that, and the news isn't going to talk about that, no one's going to bring that up, because it sounds crazy. But if we focus on this other thing, let me make you mad at this person. Let me convince you this person's a murderer, a racist, whatever. You never stop and think, there are millions and millions and millions of our babies dying. And they're killing them to keep the community at a population level that they want to have. So that's the thing. Again, I'll say, I feel like I'm babbling today, Coco, so I'd love to hear you so much. I might just turn it over to you in a minute.
No, Pastor Rollins, this is good. People are listening. We are listening. I'm agreeing when I can agree, and then if I don't agree, I ask you questions. But this is a cordial conversation, and this is about your book, and these are some topics that are in the book, and I have to say the book is very easy reading. It has no more than 120 pages in it. Each chapter is very small. It is a very well-written book. You should go to Amazon and get it right. Hey, this will make a great Father's Day gift. Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community by Pastor Todd Rollins. Order it on Amazon today. Get it before Father's Day and say Happy Father's Day. Dad, let's talk about some of these chapters. Let's read this together, especially the older generation, and see what, like if the grandchild gets together with the grandfather and the two, read your book and talk about the chapters. I think it would open up a dialogue for a great generational gap of a cordial conversation, and then come up with some solutions. That's what we want. That's what we really want. I think that's what your book is really about, coming up with some solutions, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, and then, other topics that are swept under the rug, and by both parties. by conservatives and liberals. We've talked about this again on the show, but I've gotten several people respond to this because they were happy to hear this. The numbers came out just recently, I think in the last couple of weeks, that they're projecting 2 million illegal immigrants to come in this country this year.
2 million. Wow.
2 million. 1 million legal immigrants. Now imagine with 2 million, if you just divided that up by state, that's 50,000 people. Imagine if someone announced, the governor of your state or another state, we are going to bring 50,000 illegal immigrants into this state. Now, we're already lacking jobs. Schools are already overcrowded. We already have crime in our neighborhoods. We already have this, and you're going to bring 2 million? But I said 50,000 per state. However, it's much, much worse than that, because they don't go to Idaho, they don't go to South Dakota, they don't go to West Virginia, they don't go, there's a certain places that they go, and they've narrowed it down to 5 to 7 communities, cities, that predominantly will take them. Now, you think if you're living in one of those places, and I said 50,000 per state, well now let's say it's 150,000 of illegal immigrants come into your city. No, there's not more jobs that came about. You're still splitting the same jobs. They didn't make bigger classrooms. They're just going to cram more people in the classrooms. And so at the end of the day, who loses is the black community over and over. So then it's a strange dynamic, because you have a politician who I missed the statistic. I was trying to grab it in my head. Within the black community and all the people coming in, you have a politician that wants the black people's vote. They'll get the black people's vote. And then the next thing they'll do is, if you think the border should be closed, you're a racist. So now you're a racist because you won't let them in. No, I'm not a racist. There's black people in this country that need jobs. They need help, or whatever. Let's help them first. They live there. And so that's one of the things that that happens. And I will bring this up, and again, if somebody wants to call, I thought it was an amazing thing here a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, that they decided that the All-Star game was not going to be played in Atlanta. Now, it not being played in Atlanta, of course, loses a lot of money and whatever for the city. But here's the main reason why, is because they changed election laws. And so they said the election laws were racist. Now, the big law was you're going to have an ID to vote. Now, here's what I mean, and listen to the people and dig in this yourself. If I was a black person, I would be insulted beyond my mind that someone told me I'm too stupid to go get an ID. I don't know where DMV is. I don't know wherever it is. Now, there may be some black and white, that don't want one, whatever. But they're saying that has happened. So what they did in Atlanta, where millions and millions of people would benefit, millions and millions of black people would benefit with having the All-Star game there. They would, some of the vendors, whatever, would make in that weekend what they make the rest of the year. They moved it, guess where? Denver, Colorado, who has very, very, very few black people. So we're upset with you because you're going to make everyone get an ID. So that means we're going to punish the black community down there, and we're going to let these other communities get wealthier. And I'll submit to you, it has nothing to do, as far as the black community, with saying people have to have an ID. It's, once again, it's those people coming over the border. So they don't have IDs, and they don't want IDs, and they want their votes. So they're going to use the black community, call them racist, get elected, bring millions in to take your jobs, to overcrowd your schools, to do what have you, and then at the same time, I mean, you would be the one that would suffer the most from it. So it's a vicious cycle, but that's the way it is, and where we need to really when you hear something, don't just take it at face value. Don't just turn your radio on to a talk show host. This one will be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then get all your information and education from them.
Well, I want to ask though, do we really expect the same people who are doing this to us to help us?
Yeah, I don't.
No, exactly.
Not at all.
They're
And,
not going to change.
and let me say again, it's on both sides of the aisle.
Exactly. Democrats and
So,
Republicans both are to blame.
I'll lean one way, but I don't know that one of them is any great ethical
No.
giant that the other one is not.
You're right.
And that's where, going back, I know I'm being redundant, and with the book, please pick one up, Killing Me Softly. That's where we need to be able to understand what they are doing and who they are, and to be able to dig into that. Here's one last thing. I feel like we're being controversial today, but Coco, you're agreeing with me on everything.
Well,
So
I mean, the only thing that I didn't quite agree, but your message was really about the media, was about the basketball player who lives a lavish life but says he's scared, to be a black man. But I just want to clarify that not only people not knowing his status, I'm not just talking about the police, I'm talking about another brother, okay? So it's not just the police, that's harassing us or taking us out, it's ourselves. We've got to take some responsibility as well. If we want the respect that we want, we need to do what we need to do to deserve it and stop killing each other as well, and set the example and show people how we want to be treated. So, but other than that, the main thing to me is the education system has dumbed us down, period. And we need to smarten back up. And all you have to do nowadays is Google. Just ask Google a question. Go back in history. History repeats itself. Why? Why can't we move the needle? Because we don't know what the needle is. We don't know our history. If we knew our history, we would probably stop repeating it. So I know you might not have liked history class when you were in school, but that's where you got to start. You've got to start educating yourself in history. Go all the way back. Well, eat an elephant one bite at a time. But I would start in the 1600s. You can go back further than that. You really can. It's a lot of education in history. You can go back to the 1000s, 10 something BC. I mean, you read history in the Bible on Sundays. Why can't you read the history of this country or of this planet? So I think that the education system did us an injustice, but now we cannot even use that as an excuse because you can Google it now.
yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, when we talk about the last reason as to why people say these things. And this is going to be a little sticky here, so you can remember we're all still going to record. I want to be careful how I say this.
I hold my seat.
Anytime in the world that one group of people oppressed another group of people, one of the things that they do is they take people from that group of oppressed and they give them a good job. They give them they give them a good place to live.
Yeah.
They give them big money. They give them a status. And so some of those people that you're looking at on TV, you may look and go, wait a minute, I trust this woman, she's a black woman. I trust this man, he's a black man.
That's right.
Not necessarily. He may just be keeping you under control. He's there just to tell you every day, it's okay, it's okay. Wait a minute, we're murdering your babies. No, it's okay. It's these mad at other people. But what about these laws that have been in place to harm the black community? No, don't worry about that. What you really got to worry about is this ugly person that said that. And so a lot of people, and I think it's athletes and news people, both, they have been brought in to help keep the black community, to help them heal, or to get them to heal.
That was sticky, Pastor, but guess what? It was the truth, and the truth shall set us free. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. We do have to take a quick break. You're inside Cordial Conversations with Pastor Todd Rollins. We are discussing his book, Killing Me Softly, America's Hidden Agenda for the Black Community, which is available on Amazon.com, or you can email him at Rawlins, RAWLINGS, capital M, capital T, at Verizon.net. That's rawlinsmt@verizon.net. But we're going to come back with a few more minutes with cordial.